A kitchen in Columbus, Ohio, 11:15 at night. The dishwasher running, a phone face up on the counter, the screen still bright. A retirement account balance, 7 figures, glowing in the dark. The man standing there is 67, retired federal engineer. 31 years at the agency, did everything the way you are supposed to do it. Maxed the TSP every single year after he turned 34. Took the FERS pension, filed for Social Security at 66 and 8 months. Almost to the day. His net worth, all in, sits at about $1.2 million. Between Social Security, the pension, and what he pulls from the TSP every month, his household income comes in around $6,800. After taxes, after Medicare Part B, he clears somewhere near $5,900. He spends $3,200. That is less than 55% of what comes in every month. The rest just sits. Grows, actually. His account balance is higher now than it was the day he retired, 4 years ago. And he still cannot sleep. Not every night, but enough nights. Enough that the phone ends up face up on the kitchen counter at 11:15, the screen showing a number that should feel like safety, but instead feels like a countdown. This is not a story about someone who does not have enough. This is a story about someone who does, and it did not fix the thing they thought it would fix. And if you have ever sat with a spreadsheet that says you are fine, and a chest that says you are not, this one is going to sound familiar. The kitchen light is on, the house is quiet, nothing is wrong. That is part of the problem. A person retires, they have done the work, they have hit the number. And the first thing that happens is not relief. The first thing that happens is a silence that used to be filled by a paycheck. And now it is filled by math. This person, the engineer in Columbus, spent 31 years watching a number go up every 2 weeks, money arrived every quarter. The balance climbed, and the whole thing had a rhythm to it, a direction, a forward lean, then it stopped. Not because something went wrong, because the goal was reached. And here is the part that catches people off guard. The skills that got this person to 1.2 million are the exact skills that now make it almost impossible to spend it discipline, delayed gratification, a constant low-level awareness of what things cost. Those are saving skills. They are not spending skills, and nobody teaches you how to switch. The phone is on the counter because this person checks the balance every single day, sometimes twice, not because anything changes overnight, but because not checking feels worse than checking. I was ready to explain this away. I figured anxiety at this level was about people who did not have enough. The data would not let me. The Employee Benefit Research Institute ran its 35th annual Retirement Confidence Survey in January of this year. 78% of retirees said they were confident they would have enough money to live comfortably throughout retirement. According to the Ebrey and Greenwald Research 2025 survey, that number sounds good. It sounds like the system is working. But the same survey, same year, same respondents, added a new question for the first time. And the answer to that question is the reason I am making this video. 46% of retirees agreed that they spend less than they could because they are worried about running out of money. According to that same Ebrey 2025 survey, 46% of people who already said they are confident. Look, I need to say this. I am not your advisor. I am not a licensed financial planner. I am just someone who reads reports. Your situation is your situation. But when nearly half of confident retirees are still restricting their own spending out of fear, that is not a financial problem. That is a wiring problem. And it gets more specific. Allianz Life published its annual retirement study. In April of 2025, 64% of Americans said they worry more about running out of money in retirement than they worry about dying. According to the Allianz Life 2025 Annual Retirement Street, UD 64%. The fear of an empty account is stronger than the fear of not being alive. That is not rational. That is not math. That is identity. The engineer in Columbus does not know any of these numbers. He just knows that the thermostat is set to 64 in January because 68 costs $30 more a month. And $30 a month is $360 a year. And $360 a year over 20 years is $7,200. And that $7,200 might matter someday, even though his portfolio throws off more than that in dividends every quarter. The thermostat is not about temperature. The thermostat is about control. The only dial in the house that still lets him feel like he is doing something with his money instead of watching it sit. This is the first decision point in the journey, not whether to retire. He already did that. The decision is what happens to the identity. That made retirement possible once retirement arrives. For 31 years, this person's identity was the saver, the person who brought lunch from home, the person who drove the same car for 11 years, the person who could tell you the exact dollar amount in the TSP without logging in because they tracked it on a spreadsheet, taped to the inside of a filing cabinet at the office. That identity had rewards. Every milestone felt like proof. 200,000, 500,000, 750, a million. Every one of those numbers said the same thing. You are doing this, right? Then the number hit 1.2 and the rewards stopped. Not because the number went down, because the game changed. Accumulation was over. Decumulation was supposed to start. But decumulation means watching the number go the wrong direction. And the brain does not accept that. You close the app, you open it again 10 minutes later. There is a name for this in the research. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky identified it in their 1979 prospect theory paper. The pain of losing $1 is psychologically roughly 2 to 2.5 times more powerful than the pleasure of gaining $1. That ratio means that every dollar this person spends from the portfolio does not feel like spending $1. It feels like losing 2. So the thermostat stays at 64. The car stays in the driveway. The trip to see the grandkids in Portland gets pushed to maybe next spring. The second decision point comes at the withdrawal line. The 4% rule says, a person with 1.2 million can safely pull $48,000 a year, adjusted for inflation for 30 years. That is $4,000 a month on top of the pension and Social Security. This person pulls about $900. The gap between what the math permits and what the brain allows is $3,100 a month. That is $37,200 a year of life. This person is not living because of a feeling, not a fact. And here is where the math gets uncomfortable. A BlackRock Retirement Institute study using employee benefit research. Institute data found that across all wealth levels, most current retirees still had 80% of their pre-retirement savings intact after almost 2 decades. Of retirement, 80% after nearly 20 years. These people saved for retirement they then refused to spend on. A separate study by David Blanchett and Michael Fink, published in the Financial Planning Review in 2025, found the pattern in the numbers. Retirees spend approximately 80% of lifetime income, sources like Social Security and pensions, but only about half of their accumulated savings. The money that arrives every month gets spent. The money that sits in an account does not. Because spending from a check feels like income. Spending from savings feels like bleeding. The thermostat is still at 64. The phone is still on the counter. The third decision point, the one that matters the most, is the one this person does not know they are making. Every month that passes with $3,200 spent and $5,900 earned is a month where the gap between what is available and what is lived gets wider, not financially. The money is fine. The money was always fine. The gap is between this person and their own life. Here is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The engineer in Columbus grew up in a household where the electricity got shut off twice before he was 12. His mother kept envelopes in a drawer, each one labeled rent, gas, food. There was no envelope for savings because there was nothing to save. The first time he opened a savings account was at 23. After his first federal paycheck cleared, he deposited $40 and checked the balance the next morning. He is still checking. 44 years later, different account. Same reflex. Same morning ritual. Same small pulse of reassurance that the money is still there. That the envelope is not empty. Behavioral researchers call this financial imprinting. The money scripts written in childhood do not update when the bank balance does. A Northwestern Mutual survey published in April of 2025 found that 51% of Americans think it is somewhat or very likely they will outlive their savings. That includes people with more than enough. The fear is not about the number. The fear is about the story. The number is supposed to protect them from. And that story was written before they could do long division. Every institution that manages retirement assets has a financial interest in you being afraid to spend them. Fear keeps money in accounts. Accounts generate fees. The system does not profit from contentment. It profits from one more year of caution. That is not just money, that is years. Years this person spent accumulating. Years they will spend not spending. The number on the statement is dollars. The cost is time. Now, let me walk you through what this actually looks like in the math of a life. Start with 67. According to the Social Security Administration, period life tables, a 67-year-old man has a life expectancy of roughly another 16 years. 16 years at $37,200 a year of unspent capacity. That is $595,200 of experiences. Travel, comfort, generosity, warmth, literally warmth, that this person will leave on the table. Not because they cannot afford it, because their brain will not let them. And if the portfolio averages even a modest return over that period, the 1.2 million does not shrink, it grows. This person will very likely die with more money than they had. The day they retired, the savings account wins, the person does not. The office is dark at 4:30. The spreadsheet is still open. Except there is no office anymore. There is a kitchen in Columbus. The fourth decision point is whether this person ever realizes that the identity of the saver, the one that got them here, is the same identity that is now keeping them from being here. The discipline that built the portfolio is the same discipline that will not let them use it, and the shift required is not financial. It is not about reading a new book or running a new spreadsheet. It is about grieving the loss of the person who saved, so the person who lives can show up. The EBRI 2025 survey found that 75% of workers say they plan to work for pay in retirement. Only 29% of retirees actually did. The gap between expectation and reality is 46 percentage points. Retirement is not what people think it will be, not financially, emotionally. Nobody talks about this at the retirement party. Nobody mentions that the hardest part of having enough is believing that you do. The engineer in Columbus turned the thermostat up to 66 last Tuesday. 2 degrees. It cost him maybe $18 for the month. He said it was because his knee was bothering him. It was not because of his knee. A kitchen counter, a phone face down now. The balance is the same as it was at 11:15. The house is 2 degrees warmer. That is the whole story so far.